oh, freedom over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free.
Destination Freedom. The Chicago Defender and station WMAQ bring you Destination Freedom, a new radio series dramatizing the great democratic traditions of the Negro people, interwoven in the pageant of history and a part of America's own Destination Freedom. Today, Destination Freedom tells the story of James Weldon Johnson, poet, educator, and lobbyist, in a chapter entitled Poet in Pine Mill.
My name is Johnson, James Weldon Johnson. In Florida, men knew me as an editor and a lawyer. In New York, I was a poet and a writer of songs. In Venezuela, I was a consul for my country. But in Washington in 1920, men knew me as a lobbyist with a new bill in my briefcase, with the outline of a law against lawlessness. No one had brought it up before. I took it to a friend I had in the Senate. He thought about it. He looked it over.
A bill to outlaw lynching, is it? You expect me to sponsor a bill to outlaw lynching, Johnson?
That's why I'm here.
But you can't stop lynching with a law no more than you can stop murder.
Well, there's a law against murder. What is lynching?
Murder in a way, but still this is too new. Nobody in the Senate will support it.
When they see and feel the thing I've seen, they will.
I don't know, Johnson. I know we've just finished a war and things are unsettled. Race riots in East St. Louis and Chicago and lynchings. What's at the bottom of it, I don't know, but it's too early for your bill.
He said too early, but I knew it was late. It was past time to save lives with a law to end lynching. I went from friend to friend until I came into the room of an old senator who was wise and said,
Yes, I've heard of this anti-lynch bill you're carrying around. Maybe it belongs before the people. Let's see it.
Well, it's not much but a pile of facts I've been gathering. Just some figures to prove that...
Figures won't prove anything. It'll take more than figures. It'll take the story behind the figures. Have you got that?
I've got that, too.
Oh, good. Then suppose you put it down for me to see. Now, when you talk of murder, you've got to talk of the people who are the victims. You've got to know the motive, and you've got to know who profits by it. You've got to know the human side. Now, you tell me how you started on this, and I'll tell you what I can do.
I sat down and put aside the dates and figures on the men and women who'd lost their lives by lynch law. I sat down to write out a story, not of them, but of myself and people I'd known. I wrote of the day in 1917 when I came home to my aging father like a prodigal son. I'd been away from Florida for a long time. The town, the people, and their homes looked the same.
Fare, please.
Oh, yes, sir.
Fare, please.
The conductor and the fare were the same. But when I went to sit down, there was something different.
Say, where you think you're sitting?
In an empty seat.
The seats up front are for white people. Colored seats in the back.
Colored seats?
Now, no arguing. It's a new law. Whites in the front, the blacks in back. It's the law. You get it?
I got it. And then I saw that the people were changing, too. When you put a fence around a whole people, there'll be outbreaks. And in my town, they came every day, wherever the color line was drawn. I wondered what to do. Then I heard that some people in Pine Mill, a town in Georgia, wanted a school teacher. I told my father I was leaving.
Why, son, you'll be going from the frying pan into the fire. Now stay here, son.
What can I do here?
What can a man like you who's lived his life in big cities and in Europe and South America do in barren backwoods village in the Georgia hills?
Maybe I can move the fence back further, just a little.
Son, you'll be hanged if you do.
Then I'll be hanged.
You had an easy life, son. Too easy to begin taking on hard jobs. Now, think careful while you can, son. Think careful.
I thought carefully. Then I caught a train to Georgia. I rode out to live with people I'd known only in books, only through what I'd heard. When the train stopped, I stood in a station overlooking a patch of run-down homes and farms. A clerk and a sheriff watched me as the train pulled out. I walked towards a small restroom, and the sheriff spoke.
Lester, didn't you say this was that teaching fella they sent out here?
Yeah, he must be the one, Sheriff.
Well, then a teacher ought to be able to read.
I can read.
That sign says white only. You're walking into the wrong room.
Oh, I see it.
Then obey it. That's the law in Pine Mill. As long as you're here, you'll obey it. Would you come to teach anyway?
Depends on who I'll teach.
You'll teach them to respect the laws. If you came for trouble, you'll find it. We got enough kicking against the segregation laws without outsiders adding to it.
And that was my introduction to my new home. For a minute, I looked toward the train that was disappearing, and I gripped my bags and went looking for the Negro minister who had advertised for a teacher. I found him in his church with his board members. They'd been waiting for me. They looked me over carefully. They were a little suspicious of me, but finally the minister said,
Well, you're a city fellow, Johnson. But we will have you if you're willing. All right, Mr. Baines?
Yeah, city fellas, they don't stick out here. They ain't got to fight. They're scary easy. I don't know.
Now, he's quite all right, I expect. My boy Lim seems to like him.
Sure, he's all right, Ma. He must be. The sheriff wants to run him out.
Then we'll take your teaching, mister. Baines will fix up the school for you in a week. Then you'll start your classes.
Oh, Reverend Elder,
Yes, Baines?
I think we better tell him about the pay.
Oh, yes. How much you figuring on charging, mister?
well, I thought maybe, if it wouldn't be too much, about...
Well, speak up. We mighty liberal folks around here, but remember, money don't grow on trees.
Well, I was thinking maybe, if it wouldn't be too much, maybe a weekly wage of about...
A weekly wage for teaching?
What? Yes, I thought that...
Yeah. See what I tell you. Man looking for a weekly wage won't work out in a backwoods country. Just won't work out.
Well, what will be the pay?
Well, the last teacher got a nickel a head.
Nickel a head.
Mighty generous offer. Nickel a head a day for each student you teach. That's the custom in Pine Mill.
Sure. Gives you something to work for. Go into the field and bring 'em into the class. Now, isn't that right, General?
Well, I guess so.
That's fine.
And now you'll be needing a place to put up while you live in Pine Mill. Miss Borden?
Be proud to have him, Reverend Elder. Your room and board will be at my place. Nobody there but me and my boy Lim. Help him with his bags, Lim.
Sure, Ma. All right. Ooh, what's them? Make him so happy, Professor.
Just a few books, Lim. And thank you for putting me up, ma'am.
Don't mention it. Come on, Lim. He's got to get used to Pine Mill. Hurry now. Now, you'll take your bath on Friday so I can wash my clothes Saturday, and we'll get along just fine.
Naturally, ma'am, naturally.
Lord, but you were skinny. The city didn't do right by you at all. Gave you culture, but no muscles. We'll wait, and taste my muffins, too. They'll put the pounds on you.
Mrs. Borden went off to get the pounds ready for me. I walked about the little town, wondering what to teach and where to start. I came home hungry enough to eat anything except Mrs. Borden's muffins. She was a most unorthodox cook.
You don't mind me using your cologne, do you, Professor?
Oh, no, not at all.
Just needed a little bit to flavor my muffins. My flavoring's all gone. I knew you wouldn't mind.
I discovered my landlady was the gayest, but the worst cook in the county. Her muffin smelled like my cologne, but seemed a bit heavy.
You're not eating, Mr. Johnson.
I'm trying to, ma'am.
He can't seem to swallow, Ma. Wait, I'll help you. There. A good whack on the back will do it. As for the professor, you're going to get used to pine meal yet.
Getting used to Pine Mill was getting tougher as the days went by. I had to get used to Mrs. Borden's muffins. Then I had to get used to Lem. But first he got used to me, watching me brush my teeth.
Well. A little toothbrush keep your teeth clean, Professor.
Uh-huh.
Well.
Lem believed in trying new things. I asked him the next morning, Lem, is that by any chance my toothbrush you're using? Lem?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, never mind.
I'm all through, Professor. It's better than my homemade one. Here, I'm all done.
No, Lem. In fact, I'm going to make you a gift of it. Hereafter, it's all yours. But I did get to like Lem and Mrs. Borden's food, and they seemed to like me. I never did get used to the Jim Crow law splitting one farm family from another. Neither did Lem.
You never quite get to believe in Jim Crow is real, Professor. You never quite believe it's here to stay. But some folks think it is. What are you going to teach about it, Professor?
It was real, all right. There was strange tension in the town between the Negro and white sharecroppers. There were no schools for the white children in Pine Mill, but when I struck the iron bar to bring my class into the little one-room shanty, only Negro children could come. They came from the fields and farms, and they were not all children. There were men and women among them. They listened to my first lessons, and when class was over, Lem and I rode home, 2 on a mule. Lem was thoughtful.
Professor.
Yes, Lem?
Ma says you've been in every country in the world.
Your mother means I've been outside the country.
Oh, what's it like outside?
Where outside?
Anywhere. Is there colored and white signs in New York?
No.
And how'd they get here?
Well, a few men put them up to keep people divided, Lem. They segregate races so they'll grow up thinking they're natural-born enemies. Then they'll always be enemies to each other. That's Jim Crow.
Then how do you get rid of the signs?
Takes a lot of people working together to bring them down. You want to go where there is no Jim Crow, Lem? I'll tell you where to go.
Never mind. Before I go anywhere else, the signs in Pine Mill have to come down first.
I took Lem home that evening and many evenings, and slowly the city armor I had on wore off. It came off one evening when the Reverend Elder came to take me to his church.
You coming, Mr. Johnson?
Well, I'm not much of a churchgoer, Reverend. I'd rather stay at home.
You're perfectly right, Mr. Johnson. Reverend, he comes home tuckered out after sitting down in school all day.
Well, if you're too tired, well, it doesn't matter.
Well, if you'll excuse me this time, Reverend, I'm sure that...
Sure he will. Now come and eat your supper, Professor. Lord, but you're still skinny. I fixed muffins tonight, and I'm sure they'll spark you up. They usually do. Now come to the kitchen.
Reverend, maybe I should go to church tonight. Yes, I think I'd better go along. Thanks to the Borden muffins, I went along that night to the old church of the Reverend Elder. I sat on a bench in the back, and then the sermon began. The minister had said it was an old folk sermon, and I was half listening when he began.
Brothers and sisters, we have a new soul in Pine Mill. He's seen the spirits and souls of people everywhere. Tonight, I'll tell him our story of the creation.
Amen. And God stepped out on space
And he looked around and he said, I'm lonely. I'll make me a world. And as far as the eye of God could see, darkness covered everything, blacker than 100 midnights down in a cypress swamp. Then God smiled, and the light broke, and the darkness rolled up on one side, and the light stood shining on the other. And God said, that's good. Then God reached out and took the light in his hands and rolled the light around in his hands until he made the sun. And he set the sun a-blazing in the heaven. And the light that was left from making the sun, God gathered it up in a shining ball and flung it against the darkness, spangling the night with the moon and the stars.
Thank you, Lord.
Then down between the darkness and the light, he hurled the world. And God said, that's good. Then God himself stepped down, and the sun was on his right hand, and the moon was on his left. The stars were clustered about his head, and the earth was under his feet. And God walked, and where he trod, his footsteps hollowed the valleys out and bulged the mountains up. Then he stopped, and he looked, and he saw that the earth was hard and barren. So God stepped over to the edge of the world, and he spat out the 7 seas. He batted his eyes, and the lightning flashed. He clapped his hands, and the thunder rolled. And the waters about the earth came down. The cooling waters came down. Then the green grass sprouted, and the red flowers blossomed. The pine tree pointed his finger to the sky, and the oak spread out his arms. The lakes cuddled down in the hollows of the ground, and the rivers ran down to the sea. And God smiled again, and the rainbow appeared and curled itself around his shoulders. Then God walked around, and God looked around on all that he had made. He looked at his sun, and he looked at his moon, and he looked at his little stars.
Yes, Lord.
He looked on his world with all its living things, and he said, I'm lonely still.
Yes, Lord.
Then God sat down on the edge of the hill where he could think. By a deep, wide river, he sat down with his head in his hands. God thought, and he thought, till he thought, I'll make me a man. And up from the bed of the river, he scooped the clay. And by the bank of the river, he kneeled him down. And there the great God Almighty, who lit the sun and fixed it in the sky, who flung the stars to the most far corner of the night, who rounded the earth in the middle of his hand. This great God, like a mother bending down over her baby, kneels down in the dust, toiling over a lump of clay, till he shaped it in his own image. Then he blew the breath of life, and man became a living soul.
Thank you, Lord.
Amen. Amen.
I wrote down the poetry of the sermons and set them to music. And I remained in Pine Mill watching the students spring up and get a grip on the lessons I gave. Lem was outgrowing the town. He and his mother were sharecroppers for a landlord up in the county. And Lem hadn't forgotten that outside Pine Mill were other towns where people lived nearly free and equal. I remember how Mrs. Borden worried about the change that was coming over him. One rainy night when we sat at the supper table,
Land's sakes, boy, you getting like the professor, not eating much. More biscuits?
I got enough, Ma.
I'm sick and tired of your saying you got enough before you start. What's got into you, Lem?
Ma,
Yes?
I'm thinking of quitting sharecropping. Quitting and getting out of Pine Mill, Ma.
You feeling well, son?
Better than I felt in a long time. If we quit now, Ma, and go somewhere, perhaps we can... Well, we can...
You can't quit before you pay the landlord what they say we owe.
We'll never pay him. The more you crop cotton, the more you'll owe. So I'm quitting this week, Ma. I'm telling the landlord to take what's his and let us go.
Now, Lem, with your temper, when you tell him we're leaving, you'll be getting into a fight with him.
Thought you said you'd stick it out here, Lem.
I did say it. Said I'd stick until the Jim Crow signs were down. Before I leave, they'll come down. I won't be in class tomorrow, Professor. I'll be squaring things with the landlord.
The next day, I went to my classroom worried and anxious about Lem's leaving. I got home early and waited with Mrs. Borden until he came. He came quiet. His steps were slow.
Lem, what'd they say?
I'll be all right, Ma. We're leaving.
What'd they say, though?
Said we're leaving. That enough?
I guess it is. But, oh, Lem, you hurt.
Be quiet, Ma. You should see the landlord. I had to do it. Everything will be all right from now on. Professor, I'll be in class tomorrow. Come rain or shine.
It kept raining, and Lem came to class in the shanty. It turned out to be his last class day in Pine Mill. Turned out to be mine, too. As I sat there reading to the class from the story of Tom Paine, Lem sat listening and looking at the door. The lesson of all the ages is that a wrong done to one man is a wrong done to all men. Any citizen liable to be hanged for a crime is entitled to vote for his ruler, to move about freely and in accordance with the law of equal rights.
Just a minute there, teacher.
Yes, Sheriff?
One of your pupils is wanted by the law, teacher.
For what?
Assault with intent to kill. His landlord filed a complaint. Now, shall it be peaceful like, Professor, or shall we take him out the right way?
Never mind, Sheriff. He's getting out of his seat. Coming on his own. Won't be no trouble.
Lem, wait. I'll go with you.
Nah, you're not coming with him. You just go on with your reading. You handle your books. We'll handle this, uppity boy.
The handling of Lem Borden was something no one in Pine Mill ever forgot. The handling of Lem Borden led to his lynching, to a riot between the segregated sections of the little town. And when it swept over, there was only a wider gap, a deeper hate, and the seeds for a new riot were planted. For everyone heard of the crime of lynching, no one heard of the guilty being punished, and he who lynched that day went free to lynch another day. When the fury was over, my school was gone. I went to Mrs. Borden. There were no tears. She blamed no one, not even me.
It's nobody's fault but the law's. Your teaching him to want what was his was right. The trouble came because you didn't teach more people. You taught the one to be lynched, not the lyncher. When will you teach the sheriff and the safe people who let the lynchers go free?
It was then I started out looking for a way to work for an end of lynch law. I went to work for a new organization. It was the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. The secretary said there was a job for me.
We got a job no one wants to take, Johnson. But it's the biggest job we've got.
Yes, go on.
It's investigating lynching.
How do you mean?
I mean we need someone who's got the nerve and daring to go into every town where there's a lynching. Mingle with the crowd if possible. Go to the homes of the lynchers as well as the lynched. Get the facts behind the lawlessness. Bring that to the people.
I see.
It'll be dangerous.
I can understand that.
Now, we've got 2 teams working on this. We use a white and a Negro reporter. We need you.
Very well. I'm your man.
Good. Now, we got word of a lynching in a little town in Georgia. You can start out today if you're packed.
I'm packed all right. Where's the town?
A little speck on the map called Pine Mill.
I took my assignment and went down again to the torn little town. I saw how segregation bred lawlessness and encouraged lynch law. I gathered the real picture of lynching and brought it up to the association, had it published. And soon my own neck was wanted at the end of a rope. I remember one evening in Tennessee, I came into a hotel. There were men in the lobby. It was to be my last trip. At the hotel desk,
What can I do for you?
he looked out of the side of his eyes toward the hefty men watching us. I could only say, have you a room for tonight?
I expect I might have. Where are you from?
Pine Mill.
Oh, right. Good little old town. You had me worried for a while.
Yeah?
Yeah, you look sort of like the line reporter that's stirring up so much trouble. Trying to get the federal agents down here. Let's see, tall, thin, brown
If
skin.
you don't mind, I'd like to get a good night's rest.
Huh? Oh, yes. Well, here's your key. Room 220, head of the stairs.
Thank you. I walked uneasily toward the stair, the men watching my steps. I knew that if I made my room, I could escape through the window. The walk from the desk seemed like the longest walk in the world. I'd almost made the steps when the clerk called.
Say, mister, you think you can get away with that?
What?
Well, you better come back here. You can't get away with it.
Can't get away with what?
We're not paying for your room, that's what. In the Lord we trust. Everyone else pays cash in front.
Oh, is that what you wanted?
I say, you're sweating like someone's been chasing you. Of course, that's all I want. What else you got?
Nothing. Here's your money.
Save your money, mister. Where you go, you won't need to pay.
The men who'd been watching had gotten behind me. I felt a gun in my back. An arm went around my neck and choked me.
You sure this is the line reporter, Ted? You sure?
Sure, I'm sure. Been trailing him since yesterday.
Well, now, gentlemen, if you just take him out of my hotel before you start your work.
Be quiet, you. You almost let him get by.
But you haven't asked him if he's the reporter. He may not be.
It's him, I tell you. Been watching him. Go through his pockets, Joe. His name is Johnson, James Weldon Johnson.
Yeah, his pocket's empty. Only had a few bucks on him. Maybe this ain't the guy.
So what?
So we're wasting time.
It's him, I tell you. Same size, same color.
Yeah, but them ain't the right eyes. Look at his eyes.
His grip tightened around my neck as they looked at my eyes. And it seemed like a year later, one said...
What'd I tell you? The guy we want's got to have brown eyes. This guy's got blue eyes. What'd I tell you? Let him go. We're wasting time.
It was the first time the color of my eyes saved my neck. It was my last trip in the lynch towns. I took my facts and put them to work wherever they were needed to fight discrimination. The facts prove that since 1900, more than 3,436 people had been lynched by mobs, 83 of them women. Not one lyncher has ever paid for his crime. When I finished my report to the senator, he looked it over, then looked on his calendar.
It's March 1920 now, Johnson. We'll build the first step toward an anti-lynch bill. We'll take it to Congress. It may not pass this year or next, but someday it's got to become law. You made the beginning.
You have just heard Destination Freedom's dramatization of the story of James Weldon Johnson, poet, educator, and editor. Destination Freedom is written by Richard Durham and produced under the direction of Homer Heck. James Weldon Johnson was played by Tony Parrish. Others were Maude McElroy, Oscar Brown, Donald Gallagher, Ted Liss, Fred Pinkard, Les Spears, Louis Vernon, Duke Watson, and Louise Pruitt. Greg Pascal was the singer. The special music was written by Emil Soderstrom and was played by Elwyn Owen and Bobby Christian. The sermon on the creation is from God's Trombones by James Weldon Johnson. This is Hugh Downs inviting you to be with us again next week for another in our series on the Negro in democracy, Destination Freedom. This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.